We should first talk about what people who are going through crisis really want themselves. And that's something that I found again and again as a therapist and not as a therapist and in my personal life, is the really important people to ask are the people who are going through it. What do they want? And from their perspective, what do they need? And what I've heard repeatedly is that people need to be listened to. People need to interact. People need to feel respected. People need to feel cared about. People need safe places to go. They need to feel that they're valued. And so if we're going to talk about psychiatric diagnosis, I personally never figured out how psychiatric diagnosis fits into that. I mean, when people are going through emotional crises, the kind that get labeled with all these extreme labels, I haven't heard people going around saying, you know what I need? I need a diagnosis. I've never heard it. I've heard people who have been in the psychiatric system a lot get obsessed with their diagnosis, but that's a learned thing. When people are going through emotional crises, I think they intuitively, what they need and want, what they say they need and want, is they want human connection. They want peace for the torture that's going on in their lives. They want better relationships with their families. They want to talk about their histories. They want to talk about what they're afraid of. They want to talk about the things that they're obsessing about, the things that are frightening them. And if you want to talk about how to help therapists and how to help therapists be able to really do their job well, allow them to maintain confidentiality 100%. Stop making therapists have to be police officers. Therapists don't work for the system. Therapists work for their clients. Give therapists confidentiality back. Okay, stop allowing these pharmaceutical companies to do all their advertising. It's horrible, the lies that they're telling on television. I say, take the profit motive out of psychiatry. Stop having them develop all this crap and then market it and try to make tons of profits off of it. It's lies, and it's really, really bad. People are incredibly intuitive about what they want and need. And I don't care how, quote, disturbed they are. Even if they're, quote, disturbed, and deep down, I don't think anybody's really disturbed. I think maybe they don't function so well in the world, and maybe they don't come across as being, quote, normal. But deep down, whatever they're going through is actually sending a loud message about what they want and need and about what they've gone through. And if you get people who actually can really sit and listen to what people want and really need, then I don't think you need to be telling them what to do. I think instead of telling people what to do, we should be listening to them more. And I think a whole system that's devoted to listening to people and putting a huge amount of energy into listening to them and facilitating dialogue with them. And not just with them, but between them and the people who are close to them in their lives. When you get all this and put it all together, we could create a mental health system that doesn't look anything like the mental health system we've got now. And there's a great example of that, and that's the one that's going on in Western Lapland and Finland, where they've totally revolutionized the psychiatric system. And the people who are working in that system, they're not necessarily the most radical people. They're not necessarily even radical at all. One could argue that some of these people who work in open dialogue in Finland are fairly conservative people, except the whole system has been converted. And so it's a system that just operates under different principles. Their power dynamics are totally different than regular psychiatry. And, surprise, surprise, they're getting the best results in the world for this thing called psychosis. And it's like, to me, it's really not a surprise, because it's like, when you change radical parts of the system and turn it around and make it much better, you're going to get a system that really helps people. And you're going to get people who actually start to believe in psychiatry at a deep level. When I go to Washington Square Park and I turn the water in the water fountain and I drink it, I kind of go with the assumption that that water is clean, it's not full of bacteria, it's going to be fairly cool, and it'll actually quench my thirst, and I won't get sick from it. That was a metaphor that I heard people who were in Finnish Western Lapland open dialogue psychiatry use. They say, when we turn the water on and we drink the water, we expect that the water will be good. That's how we feel about psychiatry. We come to them and they help us. We believe them because they prove it. Again and again, they do good for us. We trust them. We go to them when we have problems. It's kind of like, who here says that? Who here who actually knows what they're talking about says that? It's like, yeah, you can go to a psychiatrist and get drugs. If you have problems, you can get locked up if you say the right stuff. Psychiatry will do that for you, but are they going to help people, quote, recover from psychosis? Do they really know how to help guide people through extreme states? Do they know how to really facilitate dialogue with families to totally change family dynamics for the better? No, we don't know how to do that very well in New York, in the United States and in almost the whole Western world. Yes, there's a lot of good people who work in psychiatry, but the system is set up to thwart their goodness. And I think if the system were different, a lot of those people could actually do work that really makes them feel great about it. If you don't really want to have to think deeply about emotional dynamics and to have to feel the torment that people go through when they're going through extreme states, then yeah, the person has a biological chemical imbalance in the brain is a pretty simple answer that makes everybody feel comfortable, and then you don't have to deal with what they're going through. You don't have to empathize with their experience, and there's a quick answer. Put them on a pill, medicate them, and then they won't bother me so much anymore. And the end result of that is, you know, there's an epidemic of disability happening in this country, and growing is painful. Life is painful. You know, exploring grief is painful. Upwelling traumatic experiences are painful. Painful family dynamics, they're not easy. Well, being really confused about your direction in your life is painful. Being really stressed out about where you're going and what am I going to do and who am I and existential questions. This isn't the kind of stuff that, you know, people want to feel, but it's also part of humanity. It's part of a growing process. It's scary to feel like you don't know where you fit in your life. And so it's painful. But the thing is, if you can work through it and not squelch it and cut it off and numb it and medicate it, if you can work through that painful stuff, the end result of that is you feel empowered and you feel strong and you know the way out for the next time. And you also know how to help someone else go through it. But if you squelch it and medicate it and pill it to death and hospitalize it and terrify people with it, then what do they learn? They learn that, oh my God, I have to run away from my fear. And they don't get the concept of working through it because they've never had the experience. They don't get that as the school of hard knocks. They just know more trauma. So, I don't know. I'm not in the business of taking away people's pain. I think pain is an incredible motivator for growth. This long-term medicating with antipsychotics, that is no answer because it's like, it takes away the very motivation that people need to be able to work through whatever it is they're going through.